What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about this little dude, the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. Let's go. You can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes. I'm always boarding. Just out touring. Why do I have a Z Flip 4? I keep asking myself this question. Yeah, I like new devices. This form factor is something that I have really wanted to focus on and just see if I really liked it. Folding phones have become kind of something that I have been just really intrigued with, and I'm one of those people that I'm like rooting for foldables, and they always kind of come up short. I would echo the charge of what everyone else is saying, that Samsung is kind of leading this forefront. They're being very bold and taking big steps, investing lots of money, R&D, and effort into something that can fold in half. And as someone who's used the Fold 3 now for almost a year, I have been pretty impressed with the device. In fact, I really enjoy it. I love having that bigger screen that I can use with the S Pen. But this device, for some reason, just feels more like what I really want. And granted, I think that it's wanting a little bit, meaning it's kind of lacking some things that I think we really want to see in this device. It's still a very nice phone to have. So let's talk about all the things that I really like about it, the things that I don't like about it, and I'll give you my initial impressions. Do I think you should pick one of these up? Is it better than the Fold 3? Is it better than some of the other Galaxy devices that are out there? So let's go. So first things first, we have to talk about design. And there's a lot to talk about here. And we could go on and on for days about the hinge and the screen and the bezels and this exterior display. Foldable devices just bring up so many new features that you can go on and on for days. But let's talk about it like this. Just as a phone in this form factor, what's it like? Well, I can tell you, for me, I really like it. Having a phone that folds open to 6.7 inch screen, but is not this big bar phone like an iPhone or my Pixel. It's a little bit narrower, makes it a little bit easier to hold in the hand. Also, it is very thin compared to those devices. And that's because it doesn't have as big of a battery in it. But let's talk about that real quick. Side note, let's chase a rabbit on the other side of away from design. Battery life, incredible. Never would have imagined in a million years that this phone would have been so good at battery life. Typically, everyone knows Samsung and Android phones take a little while to kind of learn your usage and perform well, and this one is performing extremely well out of the box. Now a month later, it's killing it. Anyway, back to design. Samsung nailed it with this back on this part. We'll talk about this side in a minute, but this side, this feels as good. This frosted glass feels as good as the best frosted glass back screen that I've ever used, and that is my iPhone 13 Pro. This feels so premium. I mean, just very flat, very nice, very solid. On my Fold, it felt like it just had a layer or something, that it wasn't as premium. It almost, I've said this before, on my Fold 3, it felt like it was fragile. One thing I don't like typically is shiny sides, and this one I'm giving a pass, because I think it's the fact that Samsung did these side rails in their strengthened, strong Superman aluminum. Yeah, it's still shiny, but it's more of like a brushed look, which does not show fingerprints and smudges as bad. If I really look for them, I can see them, but just sitting on the table, whatever, it doesn't look gross and dirty. like others. So it's a little bit nicer, and it seems like it stays clean looking for a longer amount of time before I have to wipe it off. So let's talk about this front a little bit. So if you're an OCD person, this front is going to drive you nuts because this top portion where the cover screen is not centered. Why? So for me, that kind of drives me crazy. And the cover screen, I actually do really like it. It's very vibrant. It's very easy to read. It's better to read than my watch. And that's how I kind of use it. Is I just go through and I check my notifications, check my battery, see what time it is. I like that I can play my music and check the weather from it. I don't have to open the phone for that. And that's how I use it. If you're someone that you get a notification and like you see it and you've got to like open the phone and look at it, like I just got one. So I can just like go over here and I could touch that notification. I kind of read through. This is a message on Slack. I can kind of read through. I can reply if I want to, but most of the time it's just me checking what's going on. I'm not having to open it up every single time. Not everybody's that kind of user. I am. I can do it, but you have to be that certain type of person. So I really appreciate that cover screen. It makes me open the phone less, which is better for battery. So let's open this dude up. Wow. Yeah, that hinge is pretty stiff. Like people talk about they can like open this. No, you've got to get a good amount of like, it's got to be like here to like flip it out. I know that scares everybody when you do that. But it's not just something that you're going to just like lightly open. Yeah, it's a strong hinge. The buttons are super nice. I've kind of gotten used to the fingerprint reader on the side. That I prefer a physical fingerprint reader and it being in the power button. Great. I prefer it to unlock stuff. I don't have to take my sunglasses off when I want to log into an account that I've used biometrics on and things like that. So, but this inner display, let's talk about this. So, amazing panel from Samsung. They can't go wrong with them. They just are what they are. But everyone wants to talk about the crease. It's barely there. It's barely noticeable. Yeah, I can feel it if I run my finger across it, but it's so minor. It's so minor. And Samsung's incremental upgrades of these devices, that's what you're seeing between this and the last generation. But it's, to me, all these things that they've changed is a nice enough incremental upgrade to justify getting it. Also, price. For $1,000, you can end the video here if you want. For $1,000, it's the best phone you can buy. Period. It is, because you get all the great things that you get in a typical Samsung flagship device, minus the cameras. However, Samsung's, their UI, One UI 4, 5, whatever we're on, their One UI combined with what they're doing in conjunction with Google. And if you don't know, Samsung's working with Google. They're working with Google. And Android, what all this is doing in that culmination is getting better and better and better and better. And smoother and smoother and smoother and smoother. And we're seeing that because so many people are buying Samsung devices and you're not hearing about things like, oh, my fingerprint reader doesn't work, or oh, I can't connect to Bluetooth, or I don't have service sometimes, or my camera app crashes all the time, or whatever. And I have tested all this stuff, and I push it to the max. And I've posted some of that stuff that my S22 did, and I've tried to make it happen in this, but it has not. And that tells me back in February to now, Samsung's had a huge overhaul to make sure there's no issues going on here, and that you're getting a superb device. So you can do so much with this form factor and these cameras. There is a lot to like here, but it's not a perfect phone. And let's talk about some of the things I don't like. And I've kind of touched on them a little bit, but let's just go right into it. As someone who loves mobile photography with a phone, I just wish I knew what it was like to have this phone with the 50 megapixel main shooter from the S22, S22 Plus. So the next thing is this front display. Maybe it's user error. I haven't really dug super deep into it, but it only turns one way. I typically hold this in my hand with the hinge towards the bottom, and whether I'm vlogging or whatever with it like that, but for some reason it doesn't turn over, like it doesn't rotate. And I guess that's kind of Samsung's like, you're only supposed to hold it one way with this screen at the bottom, but I don't like it like that. I want the screen and the cameras at the top. Trying to use this cover screen with the cameras is a little hard. Like, you can swipe to change stuff and you can double tap to change orientation. But in my brain, it's kind of backwards. And it's not very usable, because when you have it in a 16:9, if you're wanting to shoot it in a landscape, you can't really see everything. So like when you're trying to take pictures, you're kind of like ducking in to think you're in the shot, and then you're like, oh, well, we could have just done it normally. That technology needs a lot of work. This area with these cameras and this cover screen needs some work, but it's usable and it's decent, and I appreciate it because there's so many times that I have other devices that don't have it, and I actually appreciate it more in this form factor than I do in this form factor, because to use those main cameras, I have to open this thing all the way up and then hold it like this, and I look goofy as heck trying to hold this big old device and use the front cameras if I'm going to vlog. So it's nice. It's a lot nicer to do it like this. I still would like matte side rails. I can't be the only one. Outside of that, everything that I really have to complain about this phone really comes down to cameras and this display. But I'm going to go back to my original statement. I'm going to end here. Should you upgrade over the Z Flip 3? Abso-freaking-lutely. Battery alone is so much better. And I've never used a Z Flip 3, but for a year and a half now, until this thing came out, people talked about how bad that battery was and it just wasn't usable. This is not only is it usable, but it's some of the best battery life I've had out of the 5 or 6 devices I have in my home. And in fact, I'll go as far as to tell you it's some of the best battery life out of the devices I have here. On top of that, I'm ready for the next upgrade, because my battery life got a lot better with Android 12L on the Z Fold. So I'm hoping that they can do the same with this. This 8 Plus Gen 1 chip is fast. I mean, super fast, no lags, no glitches, no issues. You throw in great screens, you throw in 4 years of updates, you throw in that really solid build quality that I feel like they've been missing on foldables. Yeah. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. And in fact, this right now, it may change come December when I give my results, but right now, this is on the top of my list for best phone of the year. Z Flip 4. That's going to be it for me, guys. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, drop those comments of what you think I've said about this, and I'll drop a link to all the stuff I have for it, accessories, where you can find one of these. But yeah, for the price, trade that dude in, trade that old phone in, get you a new folding phone that's fantastic that you'll love for several years. See you next time.